sound, or just depending on that new microphone?
Just depending on that, it picks it up pretty good.
Yeah.
I've been looking at getting like a little tabletop Bluetooth mic or something. But, these things do a really good job of picking up audio. Plus, I know engineers like to speak loudly and with a lot of arm movements. I'm an IT engineer, so I guess that's similar.
So this is the plan for the amphitheater.
How much space?
So remember a few months ago, like
An hour and a half long work session meeting.
the park. So this is like that. So we've got folks from
Every 6 months.
When I got the iPad, I didn't realize that. I wouldn't pay attention. And I got it.
Yeah, it's like 12 minutes. So I wanted to pull that
There's a
off.
challenge.
I got you.
I gotta wait 2
That
days.
being said, I don't know if that's actually going to speak in opposition, so we may not actually have anyone speak except just the
So I don't have any state
presentation on
tools.
detail.
I don't know if you know software, familiar with GitHub. It has like a free converter, so it'll actually do transcription. It's pretty decent.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
And I had to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a command line, so you get your data file, your video file down, and you whisper at it with some command line strings.
Are you recording? Is that the HEIC format that comes off the page?
It comes out as move files.
Out of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, what I'm doing right now is I'm live streaming with an app called Band app. Designed for bands for live streams. It works great for meetings too.
So you're live streaming right now?
Yeah.
How much bandwidth do you need to live stream?
It doesn't take a lot, because it caches locally, so it just drops resolution at the other end. But then at the end of it, I can save the full bandwidth recording to the
What are
drive.
you live streaming to?
So there's a couple of community groups that are interested in some of the topics today.
I guess I'm asking what platform?
Oh, yeah. So it's
not all.
right now it's streaming to, it's an app called
Keep it in mind.
Bands.us.
Yeah.
And it's just a website, but it's got a local app to install on your phone.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's great for meetings and stuff. You can do, most people usually do live streaming on YouTube, but you have to have like a certain amount of subscribers and stuff to do that. So I'm fairly new to have those subscribers. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Are you going to come to all of our student meetings now?
Well, we're focused on this one and then the general session next month. But I'm interested in civic governance. So, yeah,
super.
they come down. And if you guys want to do it yourself, I'm happy to show you the setup. It's pretty easy.
Well, our zoning meeting is always done by TV 13.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, this one's normally not, it's just,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm Rob Yoder, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Appreciate you.
Hey, Miss Brenda. I'm good. How are you? Good.
You dressed for summer.
Good. I love it.
You should try it, the dresses are so cool.
Well, actually,
I just.
Next month you might see me on one.
I can't believe
I can hear it out.
it's called Killer.
Right.
You just have to get like the rates.
They are, you just can't run race out. Get your skirt up. But if you gotta run, doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm not getting chased.
It's like, that's.
We're going upstairs.
Man, she's great. She's at the office today, so we get her 2 days a week at the office.
You don't get much done those days, do you?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, you do. You get time with your grandchild.
Yeah. So,
How old is she now?
She's 9 months old.
Okay, looks like close to a year, right?
Yeah.
9, okay.
Yeah.
Write it down.
She can't walk yet, but she pull out her work down the gate. Yeah, she can't pick up a Cheerio, so she put it in her mouth. So she can pick up a cracker, but she can't pick up a Cheerio. Only fine motor skills, not quite right there. How about yours?
I can pick up stuff, so she has Cheerio like snacks. She is not really crawling yet. She rolls around, but she's not crawling.
How old?
9 months.
Oh, well, ours just crawls like, she's got this leg up in the air. So she sort of crawls like this.
That's
Spider. Yeah, like a spider or a crab.
Some do sideways, some do back
Well,
up.
she only, yeah, she
But
only
one of mine
crawls
back up.
initially, yeah.
Yeah, you would go back or we go forward.
Back today. There's an house and moms would go downstairs, and as soon as it taught them, they started backing everywhere. That's just the way I go. It's just for stairs, it's not for everything.
It's great, it's great.
Sorry, again, here's space, but since we don't have a podium, I need to run my PowerPoint slides. So usually we never have the full board, so usually staff sits there, but we gotta add that chair, since we got everyone.
My fault, that wasn't coming, I showed up.
Mark, you entered in any triathlons?
How are you? Yeah, the swim part would be a little bit hard.
I think a friend of mine taught me to move.
Any
It's
stroke?
combat side stroke, where you don't, it's not very slow. I'm actually faster at that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Did my own sign check.
Pictures are proof.
That's a benefit out of
Right.
it.
I have to take it while I can.
Nice.
If you don't like something, I'm sure.
She's kind of there, that's awesome. And, I have to be careful not to.
Yes. Goes all the way down there.
Trying to figure out.
Probably the most short thing I'm trying to do.
Yes.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
No,
Not really, we're just going to Brazil.
actually, I just thought about it, this weekend I might hit Brazil, you know, it's not.
I guess I feel summer now, yeah.
August, yeah. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my girlfriend together to go to Sri Lanka, because the travel agent that we follow has a great girls trip to Sri Lanka. And I'm like,
Everybody can solve the world.
and it's like,
Trips like that often don't make it out from Bridge.
but I have one, like I usually find it in the
I'm sitting here thinking, man, I'm glad my wife's girlfriend's like one of the mountains.
Yeah.
Get crazy, go to the beach.
Right,
That'll be fun.
I wonder if just because of people and then
I have a couple of extras I want to throw around here. Just get it slammed.
Running like crazy.
Well, when we put stairs, that's the leg of the shade table, and some always kind of like straddle, it's not very comfortable. I like
Yeah.
my little section.
Yeah.
My little
I feel
section.
like you can sit where I used to sit, and it was really weird. 'Cause
You can't really fit in either
Yeah,
way.
you're either sitting right on top of clearance, or you're like, yeah, it's a weird seat.
Come on up there.
Yeah.
Upstairs, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the
Nobody
best
else is
seat.
ever gonna wanna sit in that spot again.
Well, I was only in the book for like maybe 2 months, and I moved from the inn, something, can't remember what happened, but I got moved in one seat.
That normally means someone resigned.
Yeah, somebody rolled off the board or something, and I ended up moving over one, and I was kinda liked it there on the end. Except I was on the end closest to the, like, little conference room, so anytime somebody had to recuse themselves, I had to go get them.
The hearing board.
Yeah.
The last time you came
I've never
together,
had one.
and it was like, we were in the middle.
That flavor of those is very good. My wife loves it.
Which one is
Yeah,
that?
that's the Bellini bliss. This is the
Oh, we got
blood orange tangerine. It's really good.
It used to be all over. It ran its course.
Been training
I like them, but it's not issues with it. Most of them really not. Haley, how you doing?
I would say let's go and get started on the first line. I'm not sure.
There's a bug on the island.
Yeah, so I would say let's go and get started. We've got enough to do first.
That's not funny, Chris.
Yeah, I got it, gotcha.
Are we actually being recorded this time?
We are. We're in Wine Street.
So really? You have a family member? Okay, so.
Everybody.
Way back.
Goes back. Everybody.
So Adam used to work for my brother-in-law, at CJW.
Yeah.
They wanted to see
What's your brother?
Chad Parker, he's in Raleigh now.
Okay.
Gensler, he's the managing partner of
Oh,
Gensler.
really? Okay.
But I think they were fraternity brothers and stuff.
Yeah.
Chad now, I don't know. Their company is such a great success story. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and come to order. We've got a quorum. We're missing a couple folks that were planning on being here, so hopefully they will trickle in. We're gonna start with the first item there, which is actually a public hearing, which is a little unusual for our work session, but given the subject matter, I think staff felt like we could handle it here. So I'm gonna turn it over to Kurt, who's gonna kind of present the report from the staff.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, board members and guests. We do have a disposition of parkland request for Crystal Towers Park. The petitioner is the Flow Companies, and the request would be to enter into a long-term lease with the city of Winston-Salem for land within Crystal Towers Park. Just to give you some background on, first of all, why you're seeing this, a 2001 City Council resolution requires both the planning board and council to hold public hearings prior to the sale or transfer of any city-owned park property. And under this policy, a long-term lease is considered a sale of property. You all will remember that about 6 months ago, we did one of these for land in Schaffner Park for a cell tower, so hopefully the process is not completely foreign. As background, Crystal Towers Park is a small urban park at the northern edge of downtown. West End Boulevard actually wraps around and bisects the park at its intersection with 6th Street. And the overall park is approximately 2.9 acres in size. It contains 2 pickleball courts, a community garden, and a concrete walking path. But the portion of the park to the north and east of West End Boulevard is largely undeveloped, except for that walking path. And that's the portion that we're gonna be looking at. This is the Forward 2045 Growth Management Plan. Crystal Towers, again, at the north edge of downtown, just inside of Growth Management Area 2, across the street from Growth Management Area 1. This is the location map. The purple area shows all 2.9 acres of the park, and the yellow area is 1.02 acres that's actually under consideration with this disposition request. Again, this is an aerial here. You can see these are the pickleball courts that are a relatively new upgrade to this facility. The community garden that you'll see in some images is over here. And again, you can see the concrete walking trail that kind of hugs the edge of the property right here. So getting into the details of the actual request, the flow companies approached the city about leasing a 1.02 acre area in the eastern section of the park to construct what they're calling an artist village for the amphitheater, 5,000 seat amphitheater that the company is actually developing directly south of the site, which you all are obviously familiar with that project. This artist village is going to contain space for performers and amphitheater staff, including dressing rooms, restrooms, catering space, and other back of house operations. The proposed lease agreement has a 30-year term and a rate of $1,000 per month for the first 5 years, and then the cost will increase in the future annually based on the consumer price index. We did take some site pictures. This is looking east into the site from West End Boulevard, so that's 6th Street that kind of runs at the edge of the property. Looking south on North Marshall Street towards downtown, the subject property is to the right. Looking west on 6th Street, the subject property again is to the right on this image. This is looking south across West 6th Street to the proposed amphitheater site with the Flow Building, 500 West 5th in the background. And this is looking across West End Boulevard to the other side of Crystal Towers Park. You can see this is the community garden here. Each of the different crops is in these little concrete planters. And then you can see the net for the pickleball court over there in the background. This is the site plan that's prepared for the Artist Village. Just to briefly go through this with you, this is that concrete walking path that I mentioned earlier. This is not going to be touched as part of this plan. You can see this is a fence that is basically going to go around the compound that will basically keep unauthorized folks out of the back of house area, but still allow that walking trail to function as intended. And again, you can see these are buildings for the artists to kind of relax in, get dressed, things of that nature before and after the show. There's a flex building for artist use. Then we've got a combined restroom facility for artists and crew, a crew lounge, and a cafeteria and office building, and also a covered area for meet and greets for VIPs and other folks. And then literally across the street is where the stage is going to be for the amphitheater. The City Recreation and Parks Commission reviewed this request at their May 12th meeting, and all members present expressed support for the proposal. Planning staff also recommends approval of this request for a variety of reasons. First, the developed features of the park will not be affected by these proposed improvements. It's taking advantage of an undeveloped site that the city's Parks and Rec department had no plans to actually make use of. So it's a good natural marriage of available land and a beneficial use. The lease obviously will provide additional revenue stream for the city, and development of the amphitheater will bring new entertainment options and tourism dollars to Winston-Salem. And again, just to reiterate, the project is not feasible without artist support facilities. So if this site isn't used, there will obviously be delays as alternative operations would need to be met for the site. With that said, staff recommends approval. This is a public hearing. I don't know if we have anyone who's in opposition, but we do have the project team. We've got Christy Turner from Stimmel. We've got Bucky Dame, who's going to be managing the facility. And then we've got Buddy Thomas from the Flow Companies.
If I could just say one other thing, just one other piece of clarifying information. The decision to lease the park has already actually been approved by council. The issue that happened is that in further refining the development of the plan and working with, you know, the long-term vision of the site, the length of the lease needed to be extended beyond 10 years to, you know, basically make the investment worthwhile with the folks they're trying to get to help operate and book acts into the facility, so that the length of the lease is what took it into the disposition of parkland. It's still, you know, the city council's already agreed to lease the property. It's the length of the lease that is now making it go through the disposition of parkland process. So I just want to say that for a little bit of additional context. They decided to lease this property back in the spring, summer of last year, summer, early fall. But, you know, as they've continued to refine their plans and work with bookings and other things, they have figured out that they're going to have a longer term lease, which then brought it to have to go through this process. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Any questions for staff?
I've got one nit question just out of curiosity, and I'll start there. Does this action make that lot now taxable?
No, because it's a lease of the property, and we made the determination that this is an accessory use of the park. Again, we've kind of held concerts in parks and other things on regular basis before, so again, it's still a publicly owned city property. It's just that the lease term is extended, like Chris said.
Yeah, but the ownership of the improvements will be private.
Well, yeah, but the city will own those improvements at the end of the lease. We'll revert to-
Assuming they remain.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, let's just hope there is no end, and that's the last thing I was gonna say. For decades now, I totally and highly commend the flow companies and their teams for the generosity of providing this kind of facility to the community and to the region. Sincere thank you.
My question would be, is there a possibility to look at the traffic or like the way the traffic flows, just because that area of Marshall, you basically have all the cars that are coming unimpeded until they hit basically 6th Street, and the reality is most of them don't really even start slowing down until they hit 5th. So that crossing, my experience having walked around there a lot, is people go quite fast, and if you're having people crossing 6th Street, it could become a kind of sketchy situation.
So that's actually a good point, Salvador, just to make the board aware of this. Obviously, I think we've talked about this before at work session or staff reports, but as part of our working with the project team on the actual amphitheater itself, we've had conversations with both Winston Salem DOT and city police to make sure that there's plans in place for, we're gonna be closing that section of 6th Street basically, so it'll be a comprehensively linked compound during events. And again, this space will only be used during events. So yeah, we definitely want to make sure we're mitigating any traffic and minimizing the potential for injury or things of that nature.
And would there be a way to also look at ways of potentially slowing down Marshall, since you probably will have people coming from the east side to the concert area?
So this project isn't going to be really affecting Marshall. We're trying to orient everything towards the 3 city streets, since Marshall is a state maintained street, and they have, I'll say, it's a little bit more challenging to get them to do closures and things of that nature than it is to work with our own DOT. And again, we're gonna have police officers that will be present throughout the area at key points to help make sure that traffic is proceeding safely.
Yeah, I was just saying, operationally, and again, we obviously don't know what the ins and outs of what will happen as far as event management, those kind of things, but you know, there will be event management. Again, I don't know how that gets into the NCDOT versus the city maintained streets, but you know, I think that it's just like anything else. I think that, you know, folks will learn to perhaps perhaps adjust their driving patterns different whenever
You would
events
hope so.
going on. Yeah, I mean, again, you don't know. I mean, obviously, I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm a frequent walker and runner downtown, and there are certain intersections you have to be careful in, and that's one of them, so.
Yeah, and taking into consideration that most people who are gonna be guests at these events are probably gonna park on the Cherry Street parking lot, or the parking garage.
Yeah.
It just, that is one street that I often, I'm very concerned about walking, just cause people run that light and it's just.
Well, the
it's a
tricky
tricky
thing
one.
is, again, you don't know how the information is gonna be disseminated to the folks that are coming, but, the main entrance plaza, the area is gonna be located off Fifth, kind of at the corner of Fifth and Spruce, sorry. Spruce, I get them all confused. But anyway, it's gonna be up on that corner, so hopefully, folks will take advantage of the amenities on Fourth and Fifth and kind of come in from that direction as opposed from the other direction. But I mean, again, I still think there will be event management staff that will help facilitate movement of pedestrians.
The improvements, modular,
No, these are actually constructed to the permanent building code. So at one point, we were looking at doing more modular-based improvements, and that was when we were looking at the shorter-term lease. But just given the complexity and the high level of amenities that the project team wanted to provide, that led to the switch of let's do it right, let's do it permanent.
And then just procedural, I got a question. If the city's already approved it, I understand the length of the leases increased, but does that trigger the need for our approval?
Well, again, keep in mind, I mean, the original approval, I mean, this will have to go, this lease will also go back to.
So they'll have to.
Yes, this will go back. I just want to make sure that folks understood that
Got it.
as far as leasing this space for the use for an amphitheater, it had already gone through approval process, but it was a short-term lease. Now that it's long-term, it has to go through this process, and then it will go back to council for their decision.
That's what makes it a disposition and why we have to go through all this because of the term.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? Is anybody here that would like to speak in opposition to the recommendation? If
Mr.
not,
Chairman, I will be abstaining.
You actually probably need to recuse yourself because
Okay.
technically an abstention
As an affirmative
is an
vote.
affirmative.
Okay.
So you need to
Do I need to
recuse
leave
yourself.
I informally leave the room in this case, or?
You don't need to.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I recuse myself.
All right.
From
So noted, without objection. We'll declare the public hearing closed. I guess before we vote on, does anybody on the proponent side wanna make any remarks or say anything before we vote?
We thank you very much for the consideration and for working with us on this. We really hope to bring this to fruition and do so quickly. So thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right, well, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Stillman. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Mr. Chairman, the board will now move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is the discussion of the proposed FY 26-27 work program that was sent out to you earlier this week, well, I guess technically late last week, and Amy will go over some highlights of that. And, depending on how you are feeling about the work program, you can either make a decision to take action on it today, or if there are questions or anything that you want to consider or continue to look at between now and your June zoning meeting, you could consider adopting the work program of that. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, good afternoon. So before, I think everyone has a copy of the work program in front of you. It looks very familiar to past work programs. A lot of the items are the same. I'm just going to highlight a couple things. Starting on the first page, you'll see the second item there, obviously, is our update to the area plans. Obviously, we are doing Northeast Suburban area plan, which the last meeting is next Tuesday, the 2nd. And then we'll finalize the draft, and it'll come to work session probably in July, I'm assuming. And then we'll go through the approval process. The next area plan for that we recommend is Roll Hall, which I've told you, I've mentioned that before. And then we've made the decision that the third one after that, which will be starting probably the beginning of next year, is the southwest Forsyth County. This is the area between Louisville and Clemens. That's sort of the no man's land with no recommendations. That's in county jurisdiction. So we'll be working on those. And then right below that, you'll see research and preparation for ordinance amendments. We have a lot of ordinance amendments that have been proposed for 2045, and so as we always do, we usually start those amendments with research. So those are some of the items that are listed there, some that have come up in our discussions. It is not an exhaustive list. More things can come as things happen, but those are some of the items that we know that have been talked about. So we'll do some research on those, and that research may tell us that we are exactly in line with where we need to be and no further action is necessary, or they may say that amendments are necessary, and we'll then proceed with creating ordinance amendments and bring this before you.
Just at a high level, grocery stores.
So really it's about grocery stores downtown, and then grocery stores in food deserts, and looking at just different ways to incentivize grocery stores on a broad scale. We go to the next page. The only thing I really want to highlight on page 2 is that we have an exhaustive amount of UDO amendments. So prepare yourselves. We will be seeing a lot of amendments in the future. Some of them are sort of in this ongoing state. The first 2 there, so they were passed. They were on the previous work program. They carried over just because of some specifics nature about those and trying to get some clear direction on how to proceed. But then we have looking at changes to the PRD standards, both in terms of rural conservation, looking at, again, missing metal attached product in PRDs. Is there a way for us to accommodate that? And then the tree bank buffer yard request that should be coming to you shortly. Then we have housing related revisions. This is a slew of different things, looking at missing metal housing, homeless shelters and supportive housing. We've done some research on life care communities to make sure that we are in line with our peers on life care or assisted living facilities. And then looking at ADUs in the county, and then multifamily districts. Right now we have RM18 and RMU, so we have up to 18 or unlimited. We're looking at potentially doing something in between. And then some other ones there. Probably the big one for y'all is the Planning Board Authority, which we're still waiting on the state, but that may be coming before y'all. But we do have a lot. I think we had like 16 at one point in some states, so and probably more to come from those. But we do have a lot of amendments. Page 3, I just want to highlight some things going on in HRC. Right now we are underway with the Old Salem Historic Guidelines. Michelle has been working on those diligently, and they should be coming towards an end. And then we'll go right into working on the Thabro Historic Guidelines as well, and then doing underrepresented community grant management. This is a grant we got from the federal government, and then some process changes and that for our historic signs. So there is a lot of work going on in the HRC. Page 4, just highlighting public art. We have a lot of public art projects. I think everyone's seen the dandelion. That just went up, just poof, went up overnight. But we have
It didn't happen overnight though.
But it didn't happen overnight, but it seems like it, but it was a lot of work.
That's the only thing about that.
That was a 5-year slog.
Yeah, that was a lot. And one of the things I will point out here, there's some large projects, but it's just not the public art and managing artists. Pretty much all these projects deal with some sort of public facility. And that public facility usually has to be cleaned, prepped, resurfaced. Trees may need to be pruned. So there's a lot of coordination that has to go on for Erica on our staff to get them ready for the public art to be installed. So it's a lot of coordination from our public art staff. Going on page 5, just one thing to note there. Greenway plan update has been shifted, and that will be handled through Winston Salem DOT. But so we're all sort of at their mercy, at their scheduling, and they've pushed it back to start the end of this coming up fiscal year. One thing I will note is that item 15 used to be Parks and Recreation. We have changed that to design assistance. As you know, Dan Rankin on our staff does designs both for the county parks. He does some site plan designs for the housing departments. He does all the graphics in our UDO. He will be doing graphics for our historic guidelines and our area plans. So he does a lot of graphic oriented work, and we want to sort of highlight all of that effort, that it's just not one person working on these projects, but he does a lot of graphics there. Going down under 18, a couple things there. You will see that we do have ADA compliance. This is something new for us, and it does take time. Hopefully it'll become, with new projects, it'll become easier, but it is something that we do have to now factor into our timelines, but also getting everything that we currently have on our website up to date. Angie has done a phenomenal amount of work and do that, and we'll continue to do that.
And so have you.
Not as much as Angie, but she's done quite a bit.
Question, ADA compliance is in the review,
It's
like
basically,
with all the other reviews, is that what you're saying?
so
This is
basically,
website.
it's for our website,
Oh, it's
so
well,
all,
so like reading,
yeah, so
and
all of our
everything.
documents, anything we have on our website, if you look at our website now, we probably have over 2,000 PDFs. Every single one of those PDFs has to be ADA compliant or have to have.
readable.
Yeah, so in terms of one, well, the machine, the programs that read them will read them, but also in terms of, we already do most of this, but making sure we don't use red and green in the same graph, without making things right, just left justified, not full justification because it's easier for folks to read. Those sorts of things. But it's a lot of things, but right now we're in the process of making sure all those documents that we have, 42045, all our applications for the permit side, inspection side of the house, all our old side, our guidelines, that historic resource guidelines, all those things, our calendars, all of that has to be ADA compliant, so that if someone needs to, they can read it through a program.
On my iPhone, I used to always, I won't go into all that. Is there new software now that can make documents currently readable? Can they be converted to Audible?
Yeah, well, I don't know, like Audible as in Amazon Audible, or Audible as in it can be read.
Just, it'll be read.
Lowercase a, I think.
Lowercase a. So,
Trust me when I say, I don't know when I can read.
but, so like you can go into Adobe and open a PDF and you can have it scan for accessibility, and it'll scan things and it'll tab them. But what we found is that you have to go in and make sure the reading order is correct. And so you individually, like on a table, you have to click on each cell to make sure that it reads correctly. Anytime you have a picture, you either have to put alternate text on it saying what the picture is, or make it a decorative text. If it's a map we found, it's not enough just to make it a figure and put alternate text. You have to then make it an artifact so that it doesn't read the street names on the map. So it's a lot of little things like that that are very time consuming, and trying to figure that out. And really, Angie's just had to learn by on the fly and clicking and figuring out what works or not.
I apologize for the shallowness of the question.
No, it's all right. But yeah, there are some. If it's a text document, it pretty much things will read it pretty easily. It's just when you get a graphic heavy document, making sure things read in the correct order is really where you have to go through and double check. So it's a lot of time. So hopefully we are incorporating that into our time of getting items onto the website and all that. So it's just more time. So we want to acknowledge that it's now additional work that needs to be done.
The one good thing that happened was, again, we were making good headway, and Amy and Angie were like kind of took the lead on it. And our website's probably, we probably have the most documents on our website of anybody in the city, and I would say probably our website is closest to being ADA compliance than any other department. we got a 1 year extension. It was supposed to, the deadline was April 25th,
Yeah.
something like that, of 2026, but they ended up extending it a year. We're not, we're still going ahead and taking care of everything. The other good thing that we can do is, obviously, we're not gonna go back and worry about 150 and 200 page documents of the area plans that we're currently using. We're just gonna go ahead and put disclaimers on that, but any new PDF that we're creating, any new area plan that we're creating, we're gonna make sure that it meets the requirements, but we're not going back on some of those larger documents retroactively. We can put disclaimer information on there. And generally speaking, most folks don't know what the heck they're looking at when they're looking at an area plan anyway. They have to call our staff to say, hey, I'm looking at this piece of property, what's the recommended land use? They're about to reach out to us anyway. So like I said, we're making good headway, but I did want to let everyone know that there was a reprieve, and we do have another year, not just us, everybody, in the whole country.
Yeah. And maybe on just below that, City Works replacement, this is probably not something that y'all will have a lot of dealings with, but it will impact our LUA staff and our permit staff greatly, shifting to a new City Works and trying to figure it out and then work out all the kinks. And I worked a tiny smidgen on City Works during when we had the cyber event and getting things in. And it's a doozy of a system. That's all I'll say. It's a doozy of a system. So that will be a tremendous lift. And then on top of that, we have the datum transfer. Again, that's another thing that was supposed to happen this spring. It's been pushed back to I don't know when. I think probably next year. But what that is that essentially I'm not going to explain this very well, but how we sort of orient ourselves longitudinally and latitudinally will shift. Before we had 2 points in the state, we'll go to 1 point, and so everything that has GIS, so all your mapping, knowing where your property lines are, knowing where your right-of-way lines are, knowing all that, it's going to shift, and so we'll have to counter that and put it all back, sort of all our mapping and everything back together, so making sure that our lines are correct. So that will be a very heavy lift for our GIS staff. And if Karen was here, she could give you all the ins and outs. I'm not a GIS person, so I can't give you the ins and outs of all that. But all I know is it's going to be a pretty heavy lift.
So the metric has changed, or the platform has changed?
The issue is like surveying information, property lines are based on NAD 83, which is the North America datum, 1983. Where we're going to a new datum source. So it's basically, I don't know, it's going to be called NAD 27. I have no earthly idea. Essentially, and Amy's right. I mean, currently we have 2 control points in the state. Under the new datum, we're only going to have 1 control point. The further away you are from the control point, the more distorted it gets. So you have a mathematical formula that then you have to factor into your layers that then is supposed to correct it. Again, it's highly technical, but it's one of those things where from a survey and datum realm, we're coming more up to speed and more up to date than, like I said, we're 43, 44 years in the past the way our survey data is, so it's just going to a new system.
But like our PIN numbers are based on that, which means that like PIN numbers are gonna change.
Wasn't
Makes
this
me
supposed to
shiver.
start last year?
It was, again,
I remember us
we've got a
talking
reprieve.
about. Oh, this was part of that same reprieve. Okay.
Yeah, so it got pushed back, and I think they've done some beta testing, but it's been pushed back and pushed back. But pretty much anything that has a property line, so any annexation could be affected, any of our utility line easements, anybody who wants to rezone, you'll see that a property description is in rezoning requests. Those will be all of that will be shifted, and so it's a pretty major upheaval. And then on page 6, again, I'm just highlighting this one real quick, is that we do have some another text amendment that's been requested from an outside organization, obviously Treevic did, the PRD buffer yards. That one I just put in with the other PRDs. Text amendment, but this one is actually native species that has been initiated by Audubon that you'll probably see here in the near future. So for that, it's really Audubon be sort of carrying the water on that, but we do have to use staff time to initiate that and bring it through the process. And those are the ones we know of now. And we'll just, more can come, and obviously more can come from any changes the state makes or anybody else that we have to handle. With that, I'll answer any questions. Any additional questions?
What did you say City Works is being replaced with?
Ooh, the City Works.
I'll be glad to provide a little information on that. So basically, CityWorks is the software that we issue trade permits in, and the company that makes it is called Trimble. CityWorks used to be made by another company. Trimble acquired that company. Well, Trimble also had their own in-house developed permit issuance software. So they're winding down CityWorks so people adopt their own, and I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's basically their Trimble developed software. So CityWorks, we're going to lose support of it in the coming months. And obviously our IT department doesn't want us working with a program that doesn't have basically support and ongoing patches, bug fixes, things of that nature. The other competitor in the space is GeoCivics, which is the software that what you see in our packet every month for the interdepartmental zoning case comments. We do those in GeoCivics, and that's what we review plans in. So we kind of have a two software system, one for issuance of permits and one for review of basically plans. GeoCivics actually offers their own permitting module that we've done demos of. We've also seen the CityWorks product, so we're going to be working with IT on selecting which software we choose and kind of converting to that in the coming year. So those are the two options.
They essentially captured market share by buying them and killing them.
Yeah.
So,
So those are the two that are out there.
well, there are others, but again, just based on kind of where we are, and again, I don't know what the Trimble product is compared to CityWorks, but we already have a relationship with that company. We already have the CityWorks there. We already have a relationship with GeoCivics. We're probably going to put an RFP out on the street and solicit a broader solicitation, but I mean, you don't know what that will bear, but I mean, we have a great relationship with GeoCivics and their plan review system, and they're very responsive. Again, obviously it just depends on what the RFP turns back, but I would hope that we would probably stay with one of those two would be my guess, but again, I could be surprised.
And the name of the product that escaped me earlier, I remembered, is Trimble Unity. That's the name of their product.
Trimble Unity.
Yeah, so, and again, this is something, it predominantly affects our inspection side of the house. It affects our land use side, but again, this is a decision that is going to take place within the IT sphere largely.
And again, the reason why it's on the work program is it does, as Amy alluded to, it does take a lot of time when we're actually setting it up and converting it over and doing the testing, et cetera. So, we would have to have some of our land use staff be part of that testing. So we did just want to call it out on here because it will take time away from our core functions while we're going through that process.
Are there any shifts in your staffing model for foreseeable future, and how many current positions do you have open?
As far as open, we've got two that are in the process of being filled. We've got requests to fill in on those two. We do have a retirement that's coming up. For those that don't know, Steve Smotherman is retiring, effective the end of August, September 1st. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's his.
So we'll have that, but other than that, we're 100% staffed. Like I said, we had a retirement on the inspection side that we are doing a request to fill, and on the in the permit office, we had someone who left to go work in the private sector for a company pulling permits. So those are our two vacancies. We have 68 total staff. I think 42 of those are kind of on the inspection side. We have 26 on the planning side.
It's a big body of work.
Yeah, y'all gonna have a
Commend
busy
you all.
year.
And your allocation of full-time equivalence is not based on population, it's actually based on work required, work that you're doing.
It's based on the fact that we continue to do more with the staff that we have. I mean, I'm not saying that flippantly, I'm not, you know, I can tell you, you know, just a little bit of backstory, you know, again, my son's high school baseball season is over with. We lost in the semifinals of the East, but we were playing a team from Currituck County. And they are the only county in the state of North Carolina that does not have an incorporated town within it. Their county seat is in the borough of Currituck, which is, you know, just an unincorporated area. But there are only 28,000 people, and that number may be high, in Currituck County. They have, in a combined planning and development services operation, they have 20-some staff. So I was looking at, they have like one staff member for every, and it must have been 21. They have one staff member for like, maybe it's 25, and they have 24 staff. They have one staff member for like every 1,000 people. We have one staff member for every like 6,000 people in Forsyth County. So, yeah, it's definitely not based on population. We just continue to, you know, again, with efficiencies, with the plan review system, with, you know, the permit system that we're using now is more efficient than the one we've used before. We're just, you know, we continue to be able to do more with the staff that we have, but we're probably at that breaking point.
How are you funded? Does the city pay for everything?
No, again, on the planning side, so that's why a lot of times I differentiate. On the planning side, it's a 50-50 split between the city and the county. On the inspection side, it's a complicated formula. It's based on permit revenues collected in the city and the county like 2 years prior, and it's based on the number, it's based on the percent of that revenue collected as a percentage of the whole, and then it's basically, it's strange the way they do it. I mean, but it makes sense because it's based on the work that the inspection side is doing. So normally what happens is the county ends up either getting money for excess revenue or they end up paying a little bit, but on the, you know, on the planning side, it's a direct 50-50 split. So let's just say the planning budget's $3 million, the city pays $1.5 million, and the county pays $1.5 million. And of course, on the inspection side, the revenues pay for a lot of the cost. So it's really just kind of settling up after you've had an audited year. So that's why it's always runs like a year behind.
All right, any further discussion on the work plan?
One simple thing on my mind, as I read it over, there are 4 areas in which I have enough of an interest to want to make just comments. No intent to change anything whatsoever, but just to provide input to staff. From my perspective on those 4 items, may I still do that?
I mean, and again, I'll defer, obviously that's a board decision. If you would, you know, I don't care if you hold the vote until the June 11th meeting.
Do you want to discuss them with the staff?
I think if I can just send you an email and give me some kind of input, that's fine. For instance, from my past experience, I have a real keen interest in TIF, and I'd like to offer some insight to that when the time comes. I have a real interest in sidewalk payments in lieu of that I'd like to offer some thoughts on. No alteration to the work plan whatsoever, but just when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're comfortable, if the board is comfortable in adopting this today, you can certainly provide that. I would say, you know, like under the tax increment financing piece, you can get us the information, but that would probably be something, again, that we would pass along to economic development, those kind of things, because again, you know, while we support economic development, it's not anything that we are the lead agency on. Similar to payment in lieu on sidewalks.
Yeah.
Whenever a project is going through, we were actually looking at a sketch plan today on the corner of Shadowlawn and I can't think of the side street, but anyway, there are sidewalks to the west and there's sidewalks to the south where you meet up at the corner, and there's no sidewalks there. They're looking to do a rezoning. You know, it's one of those things we were talking about. You know, they're probably going to need to close up some curb cuts. I don't know whether I don't know whether Winston Salem DOT will ask for the sidewalks to be installed or whether they'll ask for a payment in lieu. I just don't know. So again, a lot of times it lies outside of our area, but you know, you can certainly email us with anything that you would like for us to look into further, and we can either give you our take on it or we can get it to who it needs to go to.
And I don't even have to have any input now, but I just want the opportunity when it's appropriate, when it's the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if none of that's
We
gonna,
can do that anytime, can't we?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's, I always felt,
Yeah.
that's something.
Except I don't always know when it's time.
When you think of
It's
it.
time.
Just throw it out there. That's why I'd like to just send one email
Yeah, that's fine. Whenever.
and be on the record.
So if you're gonna have that opportunity, Jack, and you don't feel like it's gonna make a difference one way or the other on the adoption of the work program, do you have any objection to us moving forward with approving?
I would actually move approval.
Okay, all right, so the
Yeah.
motion, is there a second?
Second.
We don't have to have a public hearing on this.
No, not a public hearing. You need to vote, but no
Yeah,
public
yeah,
hearing.
okay, so we got a motion and a second, any discussion?
Who made the second?
Claire did.
Okay. Thank you.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting the work program?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, go forth and be productive.
Go forth and work.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair of the Board, that brings us to the third item, which is just a general discussion on the rezoning process. We did just want to go over this. Obviously, we're going to have a fairly contentious zoning case that's going to be coming before you in June. This is not specifically related to that as far as discussing, you know, the merits of that case. But we did just want to, it's been a while since we've kind of talked about the overall rezoning process, you know, and how you should consider those things and what items could be considered. So I just wanted to point a few things out from the ordinance, and then we can have a discussion. Under the zoning map amendment provisions in the UDO, it talks about when deliberating a petition for the amendment of the official zoning maps, you may consider such information and assertions as are presented in the petition, as well as evidence presented and arguments made at the public hearing. Additional considerations may include, but should not be limited to, whether the proposal is consistent with the purpose statements of the requested zoning district, whether the uses permitted under the proposed classification would be compatible with uses permitted on other property in the vicinity, whether changing conditions have substantially affected the area included in the petition, and finally, whether the proposed amendment is in conformance with Forward 2045, and of course that also takes into consideration underlying adopted area plans. If you do keep in mind, when we adopted Forward 2045, by reference, any area plan that was approved under Legacy 2030 automatically slid into an adoption under Forward 2045 until such time as we replace the area plan through the area plan process. So again, whether the proposed amendment is in conformance with Forward 2045 and the adopted area plan, in this case, you know, in the case of the case before us next month, it would be the Rural Hall area plan, but obviously any zoning case that would come before the board, whatever area plan recommendations are on record, those would fall into that as well. In addition to that, you know, as part of the overall process, whenever there's a plan associated with a rezoning request, under the site plan review, it says the planning board shall review all requests for permits requiring a site plan designated, and it just basically talks about what it is. But obviously, if it's a site plan that's going through the rezoning process, you're going to review it. And it says the planning board may, as part of its approval, require the following conditions to reduce impacts associated with the project. So this is getting to how you can have reasonable conditions related to the impacts of the proposed development. Public right-of-way dedication to meet projected needs for roads shown on the comprehensive transportation plan or for other roads as determined by the city of Winston-Salem or NCDOT. 2, road and or sidewalk improvements as recommended by the city of Winston-Salem or NCDOT. 3, access control, including the location, number, dimensions of driveways, and combining driveways with and providing connections to adjacent properties as recommended by planning staff or other appropriate agencies. 4, reorientation of parking areas or building access to ensure on-site traffic flow and pedestrian safety. 5, dedication and granting of easements for greenways identified in adopted greenway plan. 6, screening and location of dumpsters, loading areas, on-site utilities, or other visually obtrusive features as determined by the planning board. Space for public transit where maneuvering and or public transit shelter, space for public transit vehicle maneuvering and or public transit shelter if determined necessary by VISTA. Stormwater management plans as recommended by planning staff and other appropriate agencies. Location and screening of improvements or activities which may generate substantial noise. Compliance with recommendations of the city of Winston-Salem or state of North Carolina and or other governmental departments reviewing the projects. Compliance with all applicable conditions previously approved for the property in question, and then water and sewer service if necessary for the development project or available in adequate capacity. So again,
Can you read that one again?
whether or not water and sewer service, if necessary, for the development project are available in adequate capacity.
Water and sewer, but not electrical.
Correct.
So what is the general other government?
Yeah.
How broad is that? It was right at the end.
Yeah, it's number 10. It says compliance with recommendations of the city of Winston-Salem or state of North Carolina or other governmental departments reviewing the project. So if utilities needs a condition of approval related to X, if stormwater needs a condition related to Y, if for some reason, Parks and Recs reviewing it and they need something, or sanitation, anyone that's reviewing it, they have conditions of approval and they're reasonable requests. Again, it has to be related to the impact the development's going to have. You couldn't, NCDOT can't say, well, there's going to be, there's already an existing traffic problem a mile and a half from here. We need you to go and improve this intersection. That doesn't meet the rational nexus test because you've already said that there's an existing problem. This can't fix existing problems. And being a mile and a half away, it's not, it wouldn't meet the rational nexus test. It'd have to be somewhere in the general vicinity.
So all of the idea is that all of these other potential government agencies are identified in the in the rezone review process, because we get other environmental issues, we get DOT, departmental reviews. Is there anybody not in that?
Well, again, like we don't send anything to Duke Power. We don't send anything to any
Utilities Commission.
To the water.
So if something comes up later that we're not aware of, I've always wondered, could they come back and then our rezoning would not be valid?
No, because again, keep in mind that one of the important considerations again is obviously, a lot of times from a land use perspective, it's kind of cut and dry. You're dealing with land use, but when you're dealing with something that is a new and emerging technology, and there is a lot of, again, voluminous discussion on both sides of a potential project. You're basically making your decision based on the land use. So what I read in the beginning, dealing with compatibility to the surrounding uses and those kind of things.
The compatibilities surrounding. I wanted to hear that again.
Yeah, because again, basically what I was reading there at the end is how you can come up with conditions of approval that they have to agree to. Whereas at the end of the day, you can't impose conditions upon someone if they don't want those conditions imposed, if they don't want the conditions imposed, but it's strong enough feeling by the elected body, their alternative is to deny the request. So that's really dealing with conditions to make things better, conditions to deal with the potential impacts of a project. As far as the consideration itself, it says, in deliberating each petition for amendment of the official zoning maps, you may consider such information and assertions as are presented. And again, this is written in the context of the elected body. But again, the planning board is making a recommendation to the elected body, so you can construe that your recommendation needs to be based on these same considerations. It says in deliberating each petition, the amendment, for amendment of the official zoning maps, you may consider such information and assertions as are presented in the petition, as well as evidence presented and arguments made at the public hearing. Additional considerations by the elected body may include, but it shall not be limited to the following: whether the proposal is consistent with the purpose statement of the requested district.
While you're on, before I forget, and I apologize for interrupting.
You're fine.
But that definitely means that we don't need to be bringing in outside research and things like that for making our case. Now, we can research whatever we want to research, but we've got to make our decision based on what's presented at the meeting.
The petition and the public hearing.
That's right.
And so,
That's very specific.
and so along with what you originally asked, so we make a decision, and then if the user determines that, say, electrical is not meeting, but that's outside of the purview of us, but the determination we made of land use stands is
And in
valid,
the end,
right?
it comes, if it's something, they may not get a CO, they may not
Right.
get what they need.
Or they may not
to
ever,
operate
they may
the
not
plant.
ever get the permit, because I doubt,
Right.
again, let's just
Right.
say, let's just say,
But we approved the land use.
let's just say something is a heavy power user, and, basically they go to Duke or, whoever the power company is and say, okay, we want to build this. Well, if the energy company says, well, we can't provide you power for 10 years, well, I don't think anyone's gonna go and, do a capital outlay of millions of dollars of building, and then billions of dollars of equipment to go in if they're not gonna get the power. So, I mean, again, I think there's some checks and balances, but in and of itself, whether or not power is readily available should not necessarily be a land use consideration. That kind of lives outside of that purview. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, again, obviously in any instance, I mean, you can research something and you can see what the prevailing literature says, but at the end of the day, it needs to be based on a land use consideration and what you hear at the meeting or what's presented, and presented by staff, the proponents and the opponents.
Well, I think a lot of times what we do based on all our different expertise is if there's something we're considering important in making our decision, we'll say, based on this, and
Yeah,
you
Yep.
give that information to everybody, so
Correct.
everybody can consider.
Again, I think the planning board does do a good
Yeah.
job of,
Yeah, it's
again,
great.
everyone brings their own background to the table, and I think the planning board does do a good job of kind of laying that out there and allowing folks to, kind of get the
Yeah,
flavor of the
benefit
room
from
and
each
figure out
other's
what's gonna happen.
knowledge and
Again, this is just something that we haven't, I know since I've been the planning director, we haven't really gone over this, and it's just always a good reminder. I do wanna just hit these 4 points.
Yep, sorry.
Whether the proposal is consistent with the purpose statements of the requested zoning district, whether the uses permitted under the proposed classification, which is the zoning district, would be compatible with uses permitted on other property in the vicinity, whether changing conditions have substantially affected the area included in the petition, and then finally, whether the proposed amendment is in conformance with Forward 2045.
How old's the rural area?
2016.
I was gonna say it's one of the.
I still worked here, so
I
that was a while
was gonna
ago.
say, Mr. Fair, on the board, actually was the staff lead of that plan.
I wanna say it's maybe, of the 17 or 18 we've done, it's probably the third or fourth newest would be my guess.
Yeah.
Fences up.
So the changes are, the way the changes are brought in, substantial changes since.
It's more in the area, if there've been changes in the area. Again, one of the things that we have kind of seen since COVID, and again, I don't know if this will hold, but there hasn't been a lot of need for office space. So a lot of our plans have recommendations for office. Well, kind of a change in condition in the environment that we're in right now is we have a lot of property that's recommended for office, but there aren't a lot of office takers. So we have made the decision at a staff level that if you have an office recommendation, generally speaking, if it makes sense, we'll support multifamily there. Similar to, we have a recommendation in our plans that were based on product type and density, 0 to 8, single family residential 0 to 8 units per acre, attached residential 0 to 8 units per acre. Well, the impact at the end of the day is 0 to 8 units per acre. We have consistently over the last 5 or 6 years, if it makes sense from a development standpoint, if the area plan recommends single family, but multifamily would also make sense there, we have made that recommendation. It's kind of a change in conditions because housing has become more scarce. So I would say that's a change in condition that's kind of driven our thought process on our recommendations. Those are the kind of things I think it's talking about. Again, there are others, but that's just 2 examples.
So one of the things you were talking about was consistency with uses of nearby zoning, other parcels, basically. For those of you that are relatively new to the board, I guess we stopped doing these during COVID. We used to do something called sign checks, where you could show up on, was it Tuesdays?
Tuesday, I think, right?
Mondays, Tuesdays, anyway.
I think
Everybody
Mondays.
pile in a van with staff, and you'd go right around to the physical sites where you see the pictures from most of the time. Make sure the sign was posted technically, but it gave you a chance to sort of get the feel for where that was done. And I guess we stopped doing it during COVID because we couldn't all ride in the van together.
I've been driving solo, I didn't know you guys
Yeah.
had a party
So-
back then.
Back in the day, yeah.
They would use it
The rally bunch.
I never went to one because they stopped not long after I started on the board. There was a rumor that Krispy Kreme donuts were often involved.
Or breakfast.
Or breakfast, or biscuits, yeah. So anyway, there's nothing that precludes you from doing your own sign check. And I've done that multiple times since we stopped doing it, where I kind of knew where it was talking about, but those pictures only show you so much. And so I would encourage you, anytime you've got a situation where you can't really get your mind around what this looks like on the ground, go right out there and look at it.
And if you can't, always Google Map. I always use, in the meetings, I always have Google Map open in case I went
You're
by
not
or
the only
didn't.
person.
Huh?
I said, you're not the
I'm not the
only
only
person.
person, yeah. Just cause.
We have it up there a lot ourselves.
Yeah, cause
That is
you
helpful.
think you know what it is, I always got it open.
Yeah.
You think you know what it is, or you was like, I drove by and then you're like, oh, that's not
Or,
what I thought it was, or where it was.
I drove by there a couple years ago. I remember what it looks like out there. And then you go out there and you're like, oh,
Oh,
this
it's
changed
changed.
a lot out here. I mean, that happens anymore all the time. I mean,
And again, just keep in mind, this is just more of a reminder. Again, I will reiterate, I think our planning board does an excellent job in being thoughtful in its approach. I think our planning board does a great job in having dialogue both with the petitioners in the opposition, with themselves, asking staff questions. Again, this is just more of a general reminder. Again, we haven't done this in a while. And, we thought it was a good idea. There were some questions that had come up. I wasn't here at the work session in April for baseball. But, I know there were some questions specifically related to, hey, how can we do this? How, what can we do there? And again, we wanted to have a more generalized discussion, not in the zoning public hearing, just related to, kind of just a reminder of what the process is and kind of what the things that can be looked at. Again, if you have a question during the meeting, hey, can we consider this? A lot of times I'll say, hey, Mr. Chairman, board, just keep in mind that's not, again, a lot of times it comes up, what's the price point of this house, or what's this, or what? Well, that's not a land use. That's not a land use consideration. That's not anything. That's not anything that the planning board can consider. Who are
crime and traffic.
Is this a rental unit versus a owner occupied unit? Well, that's not a land use consideration. That's a form of ownership, and that doesn't matter from a land use perspective because the structure that's being built is what's important and the use that's going to be there. So again, when in doubt, don't ever hesitate to ask a question. Don't hesitate to reach out to myself, any of staff. We can handle the questions beforehand, at the meeting, however. But again, with that, we've had a good discussion. I will open it up. Is there anything else you want to ask? Anything else that you think we should discuss?
Can I ask a quick, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I just wanted to get a little bit of clarity as the new kid on the block, so I thought I heard you say it at the top, but when in public comment, they're talking about things that are sort of outside of our purview of what to consider. Do we consider the public input in the decision for the vote, or like how much should that be?
Well, okay, as an example, if a citizen gets up there and says, I think that this project is gonna negatively impact my quality of life because it's gonna cause traffic issues, it's gonna take away trees, it's gonna increase water runoff, etc. all of those things are things that I think you can consider because they're specifically related to the development of the property, how the property is gonna function as far as traffic and those kind of things. If, and again, just throw a residential project, if they get out there and say, I don't want those people living here, I don't want it to be, I want these to be owner occupied, I don't want rental units, I wanna know what the price point's gonna be, those are things that can't be considered. It really just depends on what they say.
Most often I feel like we hear that, say apartments, and they're like, oh, it's low income apartments. And like one time I was like, where did you hear this? Like who said it? One, it's not under our consideration. But then a lot of times it's just hearsay and gossip sometimes. It's not a big deal.
Or apartments are gonna lower my property values.
Yeah.
That's the other thing you hear all the time, which is sometimes the case, but a lot of times when you look at where you're talking about, you kind of want to look at it and go, it's not supposed to be property.
Yeah. Townhomes too, yeah. They'll say the same.
So, then to Haley's point, Mr. Chairman, how do you want to, approach maybe resetting at the start of the discussion of, which I think you do, or maybe that's something that you guys would do, but just kind of resetting and reminding everyone in the room so we have it on the record in terms of grounding us in what we're considering prior to listening to the public hearing.
It might not hurt in this particular case since we are gonna have so many people there that are very emotionally invested in this. Having some brief explanation of what we can consider, what we can't consider. They're not gonna necessarily remember that when they get up there and start talking,
Right.
but at some point you can, we can gently remind them, hey, maybe we do it again before we enter in our discussion. These are what we can consider, these are what we can't. I don't know that we wanna get too far out on that limb.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, another example, I mean, quite honestly, I mean, a lot of the discussion, again, we're not getting into the nitty gritty of this, one of the things about data centers in general is the tax base. Well, from a land use perspective, that's not anything that should be considered. The only time that should be considered is if they're also having to request a CETA, which is a special intense development allocation, which allows for a certain percentage of your watershed to be set aside for economic development type projects, job growth, et cetera, et cetera. You can consider that then, but that's not really the rezoning. That's if you're going to approve that. So whenever folks get up and say this is going to be a $2 billion investment and that's going to generate $20 million annually tax revenue, that's not a land use consideration. Now that's a consideration that the elected body will certainly take into consideration, but that's in and of itself is not a reason from a land use perspective to recommend approval. I mean, again, it can factor into your decision, but it should not be the driving force behind it. You really should look at the land use considerations and implications and not tax base and value. So, I mean, again, I think probably, the chairman and I speak before every meeting just to kind of give a rundown of, which cases we think, we already know there's going to be opposition to, which might have opposition, which are probably going to be on consent. A lot of times we do a kind of setting the stage at that point. Hey, you may want to mention this at the beginning of the meeting. You may want to do that. So, again, I think we certainly can do that. We just need to figure out how we, how we want to do it. Does the chairman want to say it? Does he want staff to say it? Is it kind of a tag team? Again, we just have to figure that out.
I think one thing too that we want to address and set the stage on very early, and I think in the interest of transparency, I don't want us to make a decision today about it, but I would like everyone to spend some time giving some thought to, in the past, we have, under certain circumstances, extended the time that we allow each side to speak.
Yeah.
I think that's probably gonna be appropriate at our next meeting. I think it would be much more transparent if we had that actual discussion at the meeting, but I would like everybody to give that some thought so that we're prepared. And I don't want us to, sometimes we end up spending 10 minutes deliberating on giving each side 5 minutes, right? So now we've extended it.
And then extend it again.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on that again, I think that is something that would be good for you to give some thought to before the meeting. We have prepared folks. Again, you're only guaranteed 12 minutes. Again, I could see the planning board extending your time sometime, but again, they're not going to give, it's not open mic night. Not everyone's going to be able to come down and speak for as long as they want to. We recommend that you appoint speakers, you make sure that, you know, whoever is in charge of signing folks up, who are the speakers, get here early so that, you know, you can kind of lay that out. So again, you know, we're trying to set the expectations that they need to have, you know, you don't need to have 50 people that are gonna get up and say the same thing. You need to have 3 or 4 or 5 people that are gonna get up and, you know, hit what they want to talk about, you know, however they divide it up in a short period of time. And, you know, again, with the understanding that there may be some extension of time, but we're not going to like 30 or 45 minutes.
And we did discover that in the city council chambers, I have the ability to turn somebody's mic off. Figured that out last meeting. So.
How long were those extensions in the past? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
The longest I think I've ever seen was, did we go 20 minutes one time?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever seen us go past 20 minutes per side. Cause you're basically talking about over an hour by the time we have.
Up and down.
Yeah, I mean.
Addresses and everything.
Yeah.
Answer
Sit
her original question a little while ago. Reminding everybody of these realities that you've just read out to us, Chris. Our mother tried to teach us a short pencil is worth a long memory any day. Could you email that out to us so I can sit and read it again?
I can tell you, it'd be easier for me, I mean,
I think if you,
it's straight out of the UDO. I can tell you the 2 pages you need to go read.
yeah, that's what
Yeah,
you
sure.
The more that our meeting diverges from a typical normal
Right.
meeting, the more we open ourselves up
Right.
to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's some- remember-
As far as the PDF document itself, not the numeric page, it's page 111 of the 800-page PDF. And it's page 693. So it's 111 and 693 are the two pages.
111 and
111
In
and
the
693 in the PDF. So page 111 of 800 and page 693 of 800.
Part of the interdepartmental review is water and sewer.
Correct. Yes.
Will that person be at the meeting?
I doubt
And
it.
then you need to be prepared to answer how.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, we already know it's a closed loop system. We know how much water they're gonna have. I'm not sure if we know how often they have to purge the
And
system.
it has to be filled up over a certain period of time, probably, when they.
Well, you know, again, but I can tell you that, you know, if Winston Salem, Forsyth County utilities don't have anything, they have abundance of excess water.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, again, you look at the kind of industries we had over the course of time in our history, up through the 80s and 90s, when, you know, a lot of our backbone infrastructure was built. We probably don't use 15% of our water capacity in a given day.
But it's not just the amount of water, it's the handling of the water.
Right, and again, you know, but, you know, yeah, again, we know enough to answer questions like, you know, again,
Okay.
basically the water, whenever they do purge the system, it will have to go through pre-treatment. So in other words, there's a pre-treatment program that city county utilities has. They have to, you know, the water that comes out of their plant has to be pre-treated before it goes into the sewer to take out, you know, whatever is identified that needs to be taken out. Similar to, you know, probably Reynolds probably has pre-treatment on their cigarette manufacturing and Krispy Kreme, you know, whatever. You know, other folks have things that need to be taken out before it gets sent to the wastewater treatment plant. Treatment. Again, you know, we probably have some of that information. I know those some of the questions that we have asked. Again, I don't know. I know we're probably planning on having some folks there. We haven't really talked about utilities at this point, I don't think.
No, I mean, again, to echo what Chris said, anything that they have enough concern about for it to be included in the interdepartmental comments that we talked about earlier, the geocivics comments that'll go in the agenda book, those are things that we would memorialize in the zoning case conditions. Other things, it may affect the impacts of the project, but it's not really gonna impact the land use decisions at any level that would need to be set in stone at this part
And
of the
from a
process.
noise standpoint, they've decided to enclose all of their.
They've actually proffered a noise condition,
Okay.
and they're gonna have continuous noise monitoring at their site, and, you know, there's some other things. There, you know, we have front and back a page of conditions at this point. But, I mean, again, I don't wanna get too far into
Right.
the discussion of an actual case, but, you know, just in general, you know, again, the questions that, you know, For this case, it may be utilities. A lot of times it's stormwater. So again, we kind of look at what we think the universe of comments are going to be or questions. If we feel like we can answer them, we try to do it ourselves. If we feel like we need to have a specialist there, we try to reach out to them. I think based on our understanding of utilities, I feel comfortable that we can kind of answer the base level questions. If it goes beyond that, that's something that, again, we could get the answer before it goes to the elected body. But generally speaking, getting too heavily involved in those type of questions goes beyond those parameters too. So,
are there any variances being requested with this one?
No.
So it's really compliant with.
The craziest example of what to do with on-site used water that has to be discharged that I've ever experienced is when we were working on the wells on the Wachovia Tower. There had to be a pre-treatment system in the ground to treat it before it was discharged to the municipal system. It was designed, it was quantified, the answer came back, from water and sewer, the answer came back, not acceptable, it is too clean. It will kill our bacteria. Our bacteria have to have these things.
Just for the sake, are there any other questions specifically related to this?
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next item, the debriefing from the public hearing on May 14th. Anything we need to discuss there? It's a fairly quick meeting.
Short and simple. Can we do that again next month?
I did actually get a text message from Chris Lee while we were in the meeting.
Don't break my record.
Saying, don't you break my record.
Yes, I got the same text.
Distracting you. So
Yes,
you
yes, slow me down.
What's his record? What's the time?
It's like
13 minutes.
13 minutes, okay.
You probably paid Steve to go a little longer.
Yeah. So if there's not anything there under staff report, the two things I do want to mention again, the June 11th meeting will be, I know we have 11, 12 items. A couple of those may have gotten continued. I know obviously the data center opposition, we may have opposition to one or two other cases. I'm not 100% sure. Again, it will be held in city council chambers for the fact that there are better overflow rooms over there, and we can also utilize upstairs as an overflow room here if there are that many people that show up. The other thing, and it was alluded to earlier by Amy, but public art and the Public Art Commission does fall underneath the purview of planning staff and planning board, and the installation of the dandelion did happen overnight last night. There were no issues with the installation. They had planned, I think up until, I don't know, about 5:30 or 6 in the morning. I think the installation got completed at 4 a.m. I texted Erica on our staff at 5:45 to see how it was going, and she didn't text me back until about 8:30 when she said, oh, it was over at 4. I guess she had gone home and gotten some sleep. So again, it was one of those things that was a bond approval. It was part of a bond package that was voted on by the voters that devoted that amount of money to public art. There were supposed to be 5 or 6 installations, but whenever the final geometry of the road got finalized and you actually started going out and looking at the sites, the 5 or 6 sites really only came down to like 3. And so instead of doing 3 kind of smaller projects, the thought process was do one large project that kind of brings those 3 spaces together. Kind of the lightning rod of the project was the $1 million price tag. If it had been $333,000 pieces of art that had been installed, it would have never become a lightning rod. Obviously, art is in the eye of the beholder. Some people think it's a weed, but they're not really looking at the story behind the invasive hope. I just say all that. I mean, the installation, the art that was installed is very impressive. It has a great story behind it. So I'm very proud of our staff, and I'm proud of, this is a local team that installed this. It was, local artists that worked on it.
Was that the original site that it was supposed to, was it always supposed to be on that bridge?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking it was supposed to be in the grass over to the side.
Well, again, there are 3.
Okay, so was
there are 3 main pieces and lots of small pieces. At the ballpark is the big dandelion with the head
That's what
of the little seeds, and then across the intersection to the southwest of that installation is one large flower and lots of little seeds in a grassed area there. Then these are the actual dandelion flowers that are here, and then ultimately there are going to be 8. Is it 8? I think it's 8 other dandelion flower installations done at various places around town. That was, it's part of the overall plan, but those, we wanted to get this installation done and then worry about the smaller ones later, but there'll be like public parks and public buildings and those kind of things throughout the city.
Made possible by a generous grant from Roundup.
A very talented and now fairly long retired architect in Winston-Salem from years ago told me once that the key to really good architecture, or if you will, really good design, is that, like it or not, it generates conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Success. So you've just greatly complimented that project, I think.
I think it looks great today.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, eat a big lunch.
Thank you.
Meeting.
We've already adjourned, Jack, sorry.
Our parking deck card would not get us into the service parking lot beside City Hall for the first meeting in January. We just had, if you want to park there, you can
Down,
park
they
there.
probably, you're just gonna need to walk from where you normally park.
This past month, I paid for the street, but the gate was open. Yeah, I parked behind you, but the gate was open. Now, it may not be open then, cause they collect these dollars.
Parking's gonna be hard to come by.
Well, that's why
I
I'm
would
thinking about
imagine.
coming early and parking there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if
It's not a very expensive park.
at the end of the day, if something comes up, you have to pay for
Are
parking.
you on the planning?
Let us know.
I mean, are you on staff?
That's complicated.
Lindsay, nice to meet you. I'm Rob Yoder.
Nice to meet you, Rob. So you
Community organization,
Okay.
interested in some of the topics today.
Okay, great. Well, how did you enjoy our?
That was
our
great.
session?
Yeah.
Hope it was
Thank you for
informative.
Yeah, thanks for
Policy.
coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right up your alley.
We would have
Nice
been,
to
we
meet
would
you.
have introduced you. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah.
but I was
No,
like,
that's okay.
I actually
Thanks, it's so nice
was
to have
thinking you
people
were
come.
probably from digital media staff.
Also work with them.
Since you're having a public hearing on the first thing we did where we had to vote on,
Yeah.
I was guessing that's what you were here to do.
Yeah.
I thought you were working.
Yeah. I'm with some of the rural hall groups.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We're very
They've got noise and hang
deliberate
around
about
their
operating
generators.
bases. We don't want to waste
Good.
y'all's time.
No, we're glad to hear
They've done
that,
it.
because sometimes it's not organized and
Yeah.
we'll grant, I mean, I think people do more time,
Yeah.
but that's really great.
We have
And that's one of the side, I know everybody wants a decision,
You know, we
but
don't think these areas.
the continuances sometimes yield better discussions by the time
That's, yeah,
That's
Yeah.
points made.
the
from us.
plan in itself could.
Yeah, we have some
be
very important
adopted.
points, and we understand the limit of your scope, so things like, what the impact of the community, that's not in your
Sure.
scope. So we wanna be
But, and
very
there are important points, which is
Here, I'll just
why,
take it because these
We're not
things are
trying to say.
recycling
Right,
bins,
right.
our trash is now, we shouldn't have trash
Yeah.
cans, we have a central,
Yeah.
central area where
So
we.
hopefully you'll find our points on point.
sure,
And, right?
well, we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, nice to meet
Thanks
you,
for
Beth.
coming
Yeah.
today, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, those are good ones. I got the sea salt one. I think I got the last one of those.